Well, at least it's not raining at the minute. Hello! Welcome to the Parkinson's Walks virtual family vlog. How to become part of the family? Easy. Just start entering comments and you're there. Right, now we're gathered to look at the last two films which have gone up. First one on Gloucester Cathedral and then Shrub Hill. Excuse me, not a good start. If you tuned in just to see the film, jump forward 20 minutes and you'll find it about there. Meanwhile, we'll get on with matters arising. Right, and we're looking at Gloucester Cathedral. Lee Cliff kicks us off. He says, "My home city, so lucky to have such a beautiful cathedral. I walk past every time I pop into town." Yeah, see that every time you go into town, gorgeous. Peter Smith, all that intricate stone carving with just the most primitive of tools. Yeah, we were pondering whether in actual fact we could build it now with primitive tools, or have we lost the ability? Jemmy. So I love Gloucester Cathedral and I go to Evensong there often. Oh, lovely, beautiful place to go to. Any sort of service in there I found beautiful. Charles Patterson from the US of A. Distinctly phenomenal architecture, he says. Simply grand. Yeah, I agree with that, Charles. Alan Eaglestone. What a lovely grand lady, he says. Yeah, grand lady indeed. Rawe Christina sets the scene. She's always good at setting the scene. I've just woken up and I'm watching this. Rain beating down on my attic room roof. And I bet you got the covers pulled up to your chin. Oh, gorgeous. Well done you. Malcolm Richardson. A delightful visual essay on the boldness of conception and breathtaking skills of the medieval architects and stonemasons. Yes, it's over 1,000 years old. That cathedral, 1,000 years ago they were doing this. You think modern day with CAD design and all those sort of computer enhanced things, they had none of that. Just scrolls of parchment, I suppose. Wonderful. I guess a lot of it was in the head of the builder really, rather than written down, and a lot of them couldn't read then anyway. Well, Pete Payne. What a building, he says, and all done by hand. Oh, that's what, oh, imagine the skills of the workforce all those years ago. Yeah, it's the same with Markham's slant on things, isn't it, really? Yeah. Rick says cathedrals really are the most magnificent creations, especially the Norman commissioned ones. They are an important part of our history and heritage that should also inspire greatness in the future. Well, we agree with the sentiment, but I'm not sure we'll get the reward, Rick. Lionel and Mary Travels. Hi, you two. So Lionel says, I've been there on a couple of occasions with my chief guide, Mary. Good old Mary. It's a truly wonderful place, he says. In fact, there's nowhere inside or out which is not a joy to behold. I like the piece of the old chap sitting on the steps. At the end, David is at the end, yeah. He's been sitting on those same steps for, well, I can't remember when he wasn't sitting on those same steps. Sits there all day and watches the world go by. And so many people go to the cathedral, feel all pious because they've had a lovely service in there, and then walk straight past David, don't even say hello. There you go. James Weeks. He's talking about the rain that we started off with. I think we got that same rain a few days before you, he says. It looked familiar anyway. Well, you can have it back if it's yours, James. We don't want it. That being said, he says, I now have wet leaves to rake up, but at least David got me thinking. Those leaves would be a lot lighter if I let them dry out first. A reprieve, sort of, yes. David I gave a tip to James to say if you want to buy wood, buy it at the end of summer because it's lighter then. It's all dried out and it weighs less and it costs less. And of course, Jesus picked that up as he would. Gloucester Cathedral is magnificent, he says. It always amazes me that even planning a project like that would have been a monumental task on its own, long before the first stone was laid. Yeah, ground preparation and the siting of it. And, oh, Christ, it blows your mind, doesn't it? Marilyn, who is the virtual family elder sister. Morning, Marilyn. Say that quietly. I did enjoy the vlog this morning, she says, and seeing the cathedral again in such detail. I especially love those substantial Norman pillars and the light on the floor from the stained glass window. Your elderly sister, she's always here, there and everywhere, Marilyn. Your elderly sister had a trip of the unwanted kind this week. Oh. After delivering my knitted poppies for Remembrance Day, well, of course we all knew that Marilyn would be one of those knitters, she said, I got confused by a step immediately in front of the two swing doors and ended up flat on my back, beetle fashion. Oh, Christ. I haven't confessed to my daughter yet, as she's away, but expecting to get a telling off. Yes, not only are you covered in bruises, now you're going to told off by your daughter. Whoops. Sorry about that, folks. The old place is starting to come to pieces. So no ill effects, and written from the safety of an armchair. I got to be a fly on the wall when your daughter comes home. Harry, one of the most impressive architectural marvels. Shall I start that again? One of the most impressive architectural marvels in the country. See, I got there in the end. I think that's one of the largest stained glass windows, which was installed in the 1320s. That's 700 years ago. That window was put there 700 years ago. I think it was taken out during the war and stored somewhere safe. Absolutely amazing. I play the violin, says Barry. Oh, well done, Barry. Plays the violin, a difficult instrument. We're lucky enough to hear one played by a soloist in the cathedral. The acoustics were outstanding. Ah, lovely. The bird song was beautiful too, but the dripping water, I've already told you about that, he says. Bird's got a bit of a weak bladder, so any sound of running water, he's gone for the loo. Sorry, yeah, my bad. Engage on a shelf, our Simon. I had a barge holiday, he says. How do we go on to barge holidays? We mentioned it last week, I think, or the last vlog, didn't we, somewhere along the line? Yes, right. He said, I had a barge holiday a long time back when Suzanne was pregnant with our first. What a time ago that was then. 110 miles, he says, and 107 locks. You didn't plan that very well, Simon. I found out just how much work that was in a week. P.S. It rained most of the time. Well, why are we not surprised? Simon the rain god, yeah. Well done. Michael from Poland. What an amazing building, he said. How on earth did engineers, builders, stonemasons and carpenters erect such a massive construction all those years ago? Yeah, that seems to be a theme of these vlogs this week, doesn't it? The magnitude of the job with primitive means, but they weren't just primitives if you think, were they? Not as they're more intelligent than we give them credit for, I think. Parkinson's walks family members from around the world is a real treat. We've never met each other, but we've become friends. Yeah, I'd like to think that everybody thinks that we're all friends together in this family. Abandoned railways are on then. He said, I just tuned in to see you doing exactly what I'm doing, looking out the conservatory door at the deluge outside. Yeah, another enjoyable matters arising, he said. Yeah, we do enjoy them. Debs recently had a chemo cycle number 4, which involved a change of drugs. Only minor side effects with this one, that's good. And fewer days feeling poorly. 2 more cycles to go, and she gets an 8-week rest. Hang in there, Debs, you can do it. Good girl. David from Spain. Morning, Ron. Bad luck with the rain on this week's vlog. Yeah, well, we kind of got used to it. I guess we all, Parkinson's Walk family, see this through slightly different lenses, spread across the world that we are. And there's the thing with the Parkinson's Walk family, we are worldwide. I think Jim, that must be Jim Nichols, must be at the start of spring now. I'm looking out the window at some low-lying clouds which partially cover the hills. Maybe we'll get a few drops of rain, who knows. James needs to dilute all that water with some malted barley and hops. There's been a bit of to and fro in between those two. James from Canada and David from Spain. Because having heard about David's kidney stone, which unfortunately isn't getting better at a rapid rate, very unfortunate, but anyway, having heard about that, James decided to drink a lot more water, and then he started to blame David because he's getting up in the middle of the night to go to the loo all the time. Yeah, hence the comments, James needs to dilute all that water with some malted barley and some hops. Keep him quiet if nothing else. Jim Nichols from New Zealand. An amazing building, like so many in the UK. He says we got nothing in New Zealand to compare in any way, with no buildings at all older than about 180 years. And then on a small scale, he says here in Christchurch, our Anglican cathedral is comparable to a parish church in England. The earthquakes we had about 14 years ago damaged it, and it's been unusable since then. 14 years ago. Repairs only started recently, but have been stopped because of a lack of money. Oh God. Makes you wonder. I hope these I can keep seeing reflections in these glasses. I hope that's not putting you off. Yes. Going to the film now then, which was a visit to Shrub Hill where we got thrown out, and then moved on to Worcester Parkway, which is a newish station. David from Spain jumped straight in. Morning, Ron. Well, just he said I haven't had my lunch yet. Fair enough. I like the sense of indignation coming across in the comments. That's because I got thrown out. I think we should send a delegation to protest at your treatment. I'm quite willing to come along, he says, and stand behind Marilyn. Elder sisters, don't take prisoners. Oh dear, well done. It's good to see the semaphore tower, he says, and the signals. Not sure about the new station. It looks well out of town. It would miles out of town, of course. I couldn't find it at first on rail maps, he says. The buildings look very airy, but the station very sparse. Perhaps last on the list for the YouTubers of the 23rd century. Yes, when they come to film that. And yeah, we'll pick up a theme on that a little later on. Slight technical hitch. Overcame that problem. We're up and running yet again. Right. Now, comments. I have to cut them down a little bit here and there. Because we'd be here all day otherwise, but it's very well worth going into the comments on the actual channel and reading the uncut pieces. I was looking for another word there that describes that, but I couldn't get there. Oh well. Uncut pieces, because there's so much information in here. You guys are so knowledgeable, and it makes good reading. Anyway, Lionel the Mayor Travels couldn't cut this one down much. Because it tells a story that's hopefully not too familiar. On a recent trip to Newbury, he says, I decided to travel via Basingstoke using the buses. First thing I discovered was 2 of the buses from Andoversford to Basingstoke had been cancelled. So on to plan B, train to Basingstoke. Change at Reading, catch the train to Newbury. Upon arriving in Andover, I found an hourly shuttle service to and from Basingstoke with no through trains in either direction. The service arrived on the opposite platform, and after what seemed an eternity moved forward about 400 yards past the crossover. How can it take 10 to 15 minutes to switch signals and points when there are no other trains between there and Salisbury? Needless to say, I eventually got to my destination and made the return trip by bus. Not a happy set of circumstances there, Lionel. Oh dear. Oh. Marilyn. Well, fancy being asked to leave, she said. Yes, I got thrown out of Shrub Hill. We're back on Shrub Hill now, as you can see. She says, no hooligan type behaviour, I trust. No, definitely not. You did manage some nice filming, she says. Well, my favourite being the wonderful signal gantry. Yeah, semaphore signal gantry. Still standing there. She said, I hope they don't dig it up. It's just a lovely piece of history standing there. I was looking forward to seeing your perspective, she says, on Worcester Parkway. And it showed, as I remembered, a grand entrance, a vast amount of infrastructure where you buy tickets, etc. I'm trying to crack up here, am I? And then up to London train platform where there is nothing. I did manage one, excuse me, when there's absolutely nothing. Yes, this was the point that I talked about earlier on, where the London platform is on an embankment quite high up. You go there and there's just a chain link fence, something, and nothing to give you any shelter whatsoever. And you stand there up on top of the embankment, freezing to death, getting blown all over the place and rained on, I would think. Amazing they can get away with that. Oh well. Now then, where's our Marilyn been travelling to now? She said, I did manage one little outing travelling to Lichfield Trent Valley Station to check out a small bit of the HS2 route. That's been cancelled north of Birmingham. Yeah, this is a prime example of when you should go and read the full comment, because Marilyn goes into quite a bit of detail there on HS2 and what's going on, as well as lots of other stuff as well. She writes a beautiful comment, does Marilyn. Markham Richardson. Usually he says you pass through Shrub Hill without having the chance to admire its imposing frontage. A fine piece of civic and railway architecture which completely outshines its neighbour in Fore Street. Am I going to get there? Am I going to get there? I'll do my best, folks. Donny. Shrub Hill was shared by both GWR and LMS and was originally the Oxford Wolverhampton Railway. Most of these places are in the process of having their soul ripped out as we settled into the age of AI. Good point you make. Donny then goes on and describes a great deal of the workings there. Worth a read, another one worth a read. Pete Payne says, morning Ron, very interesting. I know which station I prefer. It's still lovely to see the semaphore signals in use. I noticed the distance signals were fixed on caution. Ah, alright, well spotted. Engage on a shelf. Ah, Simon. Morning Ron, it says. Most people reading this in the morning then. That waiting room was amazing. We just about saw it on the platform there. Well worth the risk of incarceration for trespass. That's all right for you to say, Simon. Yeah, I trust you'd come and visit me. Barry. He says good morning. That's a theme there. Excellent filming, he says. The old versus the new. Unfortunately, nobody will be praising the new architecture in 100 years' time, if indeed the new is still standing. Yeah, very true. Right, Michael from Poland. We're on the end of the line now. Michael from Poland, good morning Ron. He says, greetings from Poland. I clearly heard a female voice shout, excuse me, didn't she realise she had ejected the world famous Parkinson's Walks video producer? Apparently not. Nick says, this is the one we were looking for. Worth a revisit now, he says. All the boards have been taken down at Shrub Hill and it's looking a lot better now. Ah, right. But have they actually finished only? James Weeks, excuse me, I'm very startled, he says. Okay, I've been away too long. Yes, you have if you get startled by that. When I was there last, he said, there was Worcester Shrub Hill, excuse me, there was Worcester Shrub, I can't say shrub, I'll give it another shot. When I was last there was Worcester Shrub Hill and Worcester Foregate. When was that new one built, he said? Weren't two enough? Apparently not. I wonder if they're going to... No, they won't close one or two, will they? It's too far out of town. Dean says, I live 2 minutes from there. It used to be a hive of activity back in the 1950s and 60s. Such a shame that not much happens there now. Ah, right. On your doorstep then, Dean. Right. Now, to finish us off, we're going back to the cathedral, and Philip Pankhurst puts our closing comment today. Wonderful film of the cathedral, he says, with quite inspiring music. I love the hand washing mime, although I was expecting you to dry your hands on a medieval roller towel. I love it. Right, now that's been a fairly long one today, so the film is only short and involves early morning-ish in Padstow. So that'll be up in a few seconds' time. The film next week is Broadway Station, my take on Broadway Station, so hope to see you for that. And I shall be there next Friday, waiting as usual. Don't be late.